Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, we are officially here. The NFL season has begun, and we've got Packers this weekend. How you feeling?
Yeah, the NFL season has started. It is a glorious weekend here in the mountains, and the Packers are playing in 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfect. It's the perfect time of the year. It really feels like the start of fall in some ways, also with Labor Day just happening as well. But like then football season kicks in, it starts to feel like fall. You get that slightly cooler weather. I mean, what's not to love, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, the first day of fall, the start of fall is after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Who cares about what the sun is doing?
Exactly. Yeah, no. I don't care about the equinoxes and when it actually no. Fall starts when Labor Day happens, and after that it's fall, in my opinion. And so with fall, like we said, football coming. So we're going to be here today previewing the Packers Week 1 matchup against the Lions. We're going to give you all the notes, including what the spread looks like, what Vegas is saying about the game, who's available injury report-wise, and then what we're looking at for the game. So we're actually going to do a slightly different organization than we have done in the past for these previews. A little looser, a little less structured. So we're going to bring you the injury report. We're going to give you some of the quick facts on the game. Sorry,
don't be too scared.
As opposed to how structured it was before.
Don't be scared. A little less structured, it's still okay. Yeah.
So we're going to give you the injury report. We're going to give you the quick facts on the game, a couple of the storylines surrounding the game, and then we each, I think, brought 3 interesting stats that we had. So we're going to do like 6 quick stats, and that'll be kind of how we break down the game. But yeah, so we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, though, just wanted to pitch a couple of things. Leave a comment, leave a review, subscribe if you like what you hear. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father-Son Packer for updates on injury reports, updates on Packers-related news, when we put new episodes out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One-stop shop and everything Titletown. But yeah, tell a friend, tell a stranger, tell a random person on the street, tell anyone you see wearing Packers clothes. Come check us out. I will be doing 2 episodes a week for the entire season, so we'll be here. But Dad, I guess we should just get into it. No real news surrounding the Packers right now. So I guess we'll just step right into the injury report, and we'll start on the Packers side. The good news is that Jordan Love and Elton Jenkins don't have any injury designations. Those are definitely 2 of the ones that I was keeping my closest eye on. And then the other good news is no one is officially declared out. However, I think it is 7 players are questionable for Green Bay, including Micah Parsons with the back thing that we've talked about. He officially has a facet joint sprain in his lower back. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But he was limited each day of practice this week, and he is questionable. Nate Hobbs with a knee that we already talked about. He had surgery on previously in the offseason. He did not participate Wednesday, but was limited Thursday and Friday. Jaden Reed with a foot. It sounds like it's a Jones fracture or some kind of something like that.
I think that's what they've been calling it. We sort of heard is a Jones fracture.
Yeah, so that's probably honestly going to be something that's going to bother him the whole year, unfortunately. And so I would imagine he's not going to practice on many, if any, Wednesdays, which he did not this week. But he did practice in a limited capacity Thursday and Friday. Dontavian Wicks with that calf injury that bothered him throughout camp, limited each day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Zane Anderson, that knee injury, limited each day. Savion Williams with the hamstring, limited each day. And then Barron Sorrell with the knee, limited each day. Dad, any takeaways from anything on the Packers side?
Well, the biggest of those has got to be the Love, having no limitation on Friday and being good to go. I would say the second biggest is the offensive line. We were thinking just like 2 weeks ago that we might be missing 2 preferred starters because, both Elton and Banks were sitting out a fair amount of practices. And so it'd be nice to have our preferred starting O-line ready to go for this matchup.
Yeah, and you mentioned Banks. He's not even listed anywhere on the report, so that's some good news because he had been kind of in and out with that back injury. It's good to see he's not even, on the report at all, so that's good at least.
Right, that was one of the first things I saw. Is I had not a single limitation. We'll have to see, what happens with when we have a bunch of receivers.
Yeah, kind of.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yep. Questionable. Yep. We'll see if any of these players actually miss the game with an injury designation or not. I mean, a couple players are going to have to be out regardless.
Yeah,
and we don't know who that's going to be.
Yeah, we'll talk about the receivers in a little bit. Moving over to the Lions side of the injury report, The main thing is a few players who are like we already knew we're going to miss the game, and that's corner Ennis Rakestraw, and then their two starting defensive tackles from last year, Aleem McNeil and Levi Onzarike, are both on PUP, so they're not going to play in this game. Otherwise, they have three players out: backup tackle Jamarco Jones, fourth string running back Sione Vaki, and third string linebacker Trevor Nowaski. So those guys aren't going to play, but they're mostly depth pieces. So mostly healthy besides those guys who like came into the season with an injury from last year. Or I guess Rakestraw was during training camp, but guys we already knew were going to miss. So no real new injuries on the Lions side. Although missing those two defensive tackles definitely going to be impactful. They did draft defensive tackle in the first round this year, so he's probably going to step in there. I would imagine. So they at least have like a high investment guy, I guess, to take some of those snaps. But I do think they're definitely going to be missing those two guys for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it impacts the Packers running game.
Yeah, which I'm sure we'll talk plenty about.
Right, since we've got our starting interior O-line intact.
Yeah. And it'll be an interesting. That's going to be something to really keep an eye on, which we'll talk about a bit when we get to our interesting stats. In terms of facts about this game, it's in Green Bay on Sunday, 3:25 p.m. Lambeau time. Good weather in the forecast. Over/under of 47.5. With the Packers currently favored by 2.5 points for an implied score of about 25-23 Green Bay. In terms of the storylines for these two teams coming into the season, for the Packers, it's definitely about, will Jordan Love and the Packers offense bounce back from injuries and inconsistencies last year? And if Micah Parsons is able to play, how does he look in his debut, and, how do they use him? And we'll talk about that later. But those are definitely the two main storylines, I would say, for Green Bay coming into the year. And then on the Lions side, it's really about, will they be able to overcome the loss of both coordinators and their star center retiring to remain the team to beat in the NFC North? But Dad, I guess we'll just get into our 6 important stats section, and I'll throw it over to you. What is the first kind of thing that you are looking at, and kind of interesting stat that caught your eye when you were doing research for this game?
Well, was this my first? I don't know if these are in any particular kind of order, but I'll just go top to bottom on the page. And the first thing I want to talk about is Green Bay on offense and the use of 12 personnel, especially with several of the wide receivers battling injuries, even though they're questionable. You have Watson, who's on PUP, of course, then Reed with the Jones fracture, Wicks with a calf injury, and Savion Williams with a hamstring. Will they run more 2 tight end sets because maybe some of the wide receivers are limited? And so with that first question, maybe they'll want to do it because of the personnel available. But apparently, reportedly, Musgrave has been had a pretty good training camp. And what I was looking through is perhaps most notably in the joint practice with
Falling
Seattle.
down a lot less. Is
Falling
that
down a lot
the most
less.
notable thing?
And maybe even showing some contact balance. I think he maybe didn't go down on contact, and
that would be
made some nice catches.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't play in the preseason much, so we didn't get a chance to see it. But I think I saw a few people. It was on Packers Wire. It was posted about how well he was doing in that joint practice. I think Paul Brettel also had something on, what is it called, lacrosse?
ESPN lacrosse, yeah.
ESPN lacrosse, that's it. So, and then I think there are several other people who I don't know all of them, but I trying to scatter some credit out there. But I did mention you guys who reported this too. Yeah, I'm scattering some credit your way as well.
But there were a lot of reports that he was having a really good camp, and there were, Matt LaFleur was talking about back in April or May about how he had been in the facility all off season, really working on his body. And I do think the contact balance, we joke about it, but it is a huge thing for him because a lot of what the tight ends are asked to do in this offense is, they kind of, leak out on a lot of those play action boots and get that little dump off, and they need to turn upfield and get 8-9 yards there. And that's something that Kraft was electric at last year. And it's something that Musgrave has not been as good at, and hopefully he can be better, because then you got two guys who can do that.
Yeah, Kraft was had an epic year last year, actually, in terms of yards after catch and yards after contact for a tight end. It was one of the best in the last 10 years. And Musgrave, let's be honest here. It actually wasn't contact balance that he was necessarily struggling with. It was the non-contact balance.
I was going to say just balance. Just balance. Just
the balance without the contact. But he's apparently been looking good. And I think little quotes from Love was talking about how that from his perspective, they thought there'd be maybe two tight end sets And that he thought they'd be using more of it. And so it seems like the plan is to use more, that he's looking good at it. And so will he have a bigger role this year? And then if we look over what the Packers have done the last couple of years, so according to Sumer Sports, so how much sports they had in ancient Sumeria, they must have some good tech back then.
I would be shocked if that's what the reference is. But anyway, continue.
You think I'm giving them too much archaeological credit?
I think that's just how could that be related? But anyway, please continue.
But last year they did not use 12 personnel as much in 2024, and Musgrave was hurt a lot of it. They were only 15th most in the league at 24.6%. But in 2023 they used it the third most at 31.56%, and in 2022 they were at a league high at 29.78%. So historically, it's been something that LaFleur has wanted to do. And did he get away from it last year for a philosophical change or just because of injuries?
And I do think it's partially Musgrave maybe taking that step and being healthier. I think it's also partially, the receiver room being banged up. And then I do think that they trust John Fitzpatrick maybe more than other third tight ends that they've had. So maybe even without Musgrave, they would play a little more 12. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Fitzpatrick had a fantastic, I think, was it run blocking? One of the blocking grades in the preseason. Fitzpatrick was actually elite in preseason games,
and he's got a little bit of juice to him. Like he's and they kept 4 tight ends, which we didn't expect them to do. That's the
I was
thing.
Only expecting 3.
And Sims is a bit more of a special team guy, but still, they kept 4 tight ends, so it does kind of indicate that maybe they want to do a little bit more of that. And I think that's definitely going to be something that we're going to want to keep our eye on, especially in this first game, to see if the offense looks different this year.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I think we'll know pretty soon. Are they going to want to use more so they can have heavy sets for run, but still be able to pass out of it? It'll be very interesting to see when they face the Lions defense, the pass rush. Are they going to want to have tight ends on both sides to chip or otherwise help out?
Yeah, especially on Hutchinson's side, that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. For me, the first thing that I'm keeping an eye on, and my first interesting stat, was I was looking at our interior run defense versus their interior rushing, and looking at essentially how that's going to shake up, because obviously the Packers just had a big change at defensive tackle. That's a big thing. Kenny Clark is no longer there. So a lot on the shoulders of Colby Wooden and Devontae Wyatt. Last year, this is just the fun stat here, the Lions had 157 of their 554 runs through the A-gaps, and that's between the center and the guards. So that's 28% of all of their runs were between the A-gaps, where they ran for 943 yards, which was 35% of their rushing yards, at over 6 yards per carry. This was by far their most efficient gap to run through in terms of yards per carry. And I think it's going to be interesting because it's a lot of unknowns in this matchup. The Lions have changed their starting center. Frank Ragnow retired. And their right guard from last year, Kevin Zeitler, is in Tennessee. So they got 2 new pieces along the interior. And then meanwhile, the Packers, like I said, lost Kenny Clark, but they also lost TJ Slayton to free agency and to Cincinnati. And so it's going to be a lot, like I mentioned, on Colby Wooden and Devontae Wyatt. Wyatt needs to be better in the run game specifically, where he has been below average per PFF the last 2 years and has struggled with missed tackles during his time in run defense. And so that's going to be something where I think it's just a bit of a total unknown. What had been a strength of the Lions, but now they have some question marks there. And the Packers had defended the run pretty well last year, but obviously with Kenny getting traded to Dallas and TJ Slayton going to Cincinnati, those 2 guys who were doing a lot of that run defense are now gone as well. And so it's a lot of new on new. So I think it's going to be, and that was what the Lions loved to do last year. I think it's going to be something to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think with Slayton and Kenny both gone, and the run defense was good last year. Other possibility I was thinking about is having more on the plate, the responsibility for the linebackers to come in and fill some of those holes or penetrate and make tackles in the backfield against the run game.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be more on Quay and Cooper for sure, because they're not going to have as many clean runways. They are probably going to have to take on blocks more physically. They're going to have more guys climbing to the second level on them because they don't have Slayton or Kenny eating up blocks in front of them.
Yeah, and that may be the strategy for this year against the run, is to give as much responsibility and hope for the best for their what is actually a good linebacking core.
Yeah, it's a big test. It's a big test.
Yeah,
Um,
they have to, and then they have to play a little different if they have to shed blocks a little bit more, besides getting some free running lanes.
yeah. But anyway, what was your next thing you were taking a look at?
So here's the thing that is hurt them. I think in some of the Detroit games and other ones at the second half of the season, the Green Bay wide receivers' ability to win versus man-to-man coverage.
I hurt them
Something
in
they
a
struggled
lot
with.
of games last year, not just the Lions
Yeah.
game. But
Well,
yeah,
I think people caught on to it as the season went on and started like, oh, but this team never plays man to man. We'll be okay. It's like, nope, they're going to switch to man. I think those
yeah.
are
The
Vikings.
Vikings, like
They
just
never play man to man.
they had a single. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It won't matter so much this game. It's like, nope, all they do is play man to man. So let's look at what happened last year. This is just looking at both PFF receiving grade and yards per route run in man to man versus zone. So Reed versus zone, his receiving grade was 83.3. Versus man, it was 43. I think he had the biggest drop between zone and man in the league. Yards per route run, 2.92 against zone, and only 0.91 yards per route run versus man. Wicks, grade of 68.8 versus zone, 57.9 versus man, 1.75 yards per route run versus zone, and only 1 versus man. Dobbs, he went up in his receiving grade, 67.9 versus zone, 75.7 versus man, but down in yards per route run, 1.78 versus zone and 1.62 versus man. Watson was the only one who went up in both, was better against man than he was against zone. And he's not going to be available this week, or at least the first 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so will there be a change? Will the addition of Golden help?
I think that's the idea, right? Like that's the
Right.
idea of drafting him there. But it definitely is like a lot to put on the plate of a rookie, like in his first game. But I do think also like with the man-to-man stuff, can Jordan Love punish that by scrambling some more? Now, the one time he tried to scramble in the preseason, he unfortunately got hurt with that thumb injury. But he did talk about in the offseason that he was going to try and scramble more. And with man coverage, with the guys turning their backs to you, a lot of times, like that does leave room for the quarterback to make a play with his legs. And I do think that maybe also might be able to, kind of help beat man coverage a little bit as well.
Yeah, that was kind of off the table for a lot of the year last year, where they just didn't want to try it with Jordan running around on one wheel.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think it's something where maybe that could be part of the solution. I don't know. But like you mentioned, the guy who was the best against man last year is not going to be available for a good chunk of the year. And also, like, some of their other receivers are also not going to be available, like, or going to be semi-available, like limited. We'll see because we'll see if they're able to play, and 2, how they look when they play. They're both lower body injuries for Reed and Wicks. So, like, that could also affect how they play, not just if they play, right?
Right, and that's something that we'll also be paying attention to, and how they do for maybe this ties into the first part about 12 personnel.
Yeah.
Do you get more tight end matchups instead of the wide receivers if they're playing a lot of man?
Yeah, and like the Lions have made some changes in their secondary, like Carlton Davis is in New England now, but then they brought in DJ Reed, so like kind of a like for like in some ways. Carlton Davis is a bit more of a press guy than Reed is in terms of just body type, but Reed is still quite a good corner, so like they didn't lose a lot there. I will say, like, since we're talking about the receivers, I'm pretty excited to watch Golden, aren't you?
Oh, very much so. They've already listed him as a starter.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So I think, and he's so good. His hands look so
excited.
good. His route
I'm
running's
excited.
good. He's got, potential stud.
I wonder a little bit about like what the rotation's going to look like in the receiver room. Like, are they going to keep that same like heavy rotation? Not like no one guy playing a ton of snaps more than another. Like, what do you think?
It's going to depend on who's available.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Assuming Reed and Wicks are able to play this weekend, like, what do you think?
Yeah, so if Reed and Wicks are both able to play, I think they're still going to rotate pretty heavily. And that Reed will probably only be playing slot, and they might mix Golden into the slot some as well.
Do you think we see any, like, if he's available, any Savion Williams? Probably
I say
not
only,
if the other guys.
Only a few special plays here and there.
And probably not, honestly, if the other guys are available, is kind of my read on it. Like, he's probably behind Malik Heath, right, on the depth chart? Like,
I think that's
being
probably fair
realistic.
just because of
Yeah.
what Heath does. Heath is kind of a specialist in the room in some
In
ways.
terms
The
of his
only other
blocking,
person who does that as well as him would be
Wicks.
Wicks.
Yeah. And Watson when he's available. But
Right. The players who, and Watson's not going to be available, and Wicks is maybe going to be available.
And Heath just has so much more experience, like multiple years in the scheme, has like shown that he can like he can play a role, like he can be like a replacement level guy at the very least. Like he's solid. Like I know there was that mistake in the playoff game where he didn't get his feet in, but other than that, he's been pretty reliable.
Yeah, I think that Savion, we're going to see if he plays some.
I think at most
specialized
like 2-3 snaps. Yeah,
handoff kind of packages,
maybe, and maybe not even that.
Maybe a decoy.
Maybe. My next thing that I'm keeping an eye on in this game is fourth downs, which I feel like we talk about every single time we play the Lions. So just kind of a reminder of how it went the last two times. Week 9, the Lions were 2 of 2 on fourth down, and both fourth downs resulted in touchdowns. So that's a 14-point swing right there. So that wasn't great. And then week 14, the Lions went 4 of 5 on fourth down, including 2 touchdowns and the key conversion at the end of the game that resulted in the game-winning field goal and the Packers not getting the ball back at all. So 6 for 7 in 2 matchups is not great for giving up fourth downs. Can the Packers be better in those key situations? I would hope so, because those really swung the games last year.
Yeah, giving up 6 or 7 is much worse than league average, I think.
I would imagine, yeah. Like I would imagine it's a lot worse.
I should look this up. Is it like just under 50% or something like that?
It's probably not 6 of 7. I'll tell you that.
It's not 6 or 7. No.
But yeah, so they just need to be better on those downs. If Micah Parsons is able to play, I would imagine he would help on some of the ones where those are passing downs. Having a guy who can like get you off the field, obviously, if he's able to play, he would also help on those third downs as well. That the Packers struggled at times with last year. So I do just think that I mentioned fourth down specifically because those stick out in my mind, but really just the Packers need to be better on defense on those key downs, and the fourth downs kind of indicate that.
One thing I would say is we got to stop letting them get those relatively long third down plays down to a yard or two.
So I hate that. I hate that.
So that's the thing that I want to add to this is like get them down early, make a good tackle, and leave them like 8 or 9 yards short instead of 1 or 2.
Maybe 10 years ago, like if it's 3rd and 12 and you give up 9, like that's a win. That's not the case anymore. Like 4th and 3, these teams are going to go for it, and they're like, and based on last year, they're going to get it. So like, I don't want no like concession, like, oh, like they only got 9 yards here. Like that's a win. We'll take that. Like, no, that you're setting them up to convert that fourth down. Like we need to still be aggressive on those third downs. But yeah, I totally agree with that for sure.
Yeah, so I want to see some aggressive third down play and just put them down and, make it when it's 3rd and 9. Plays. Don't make it 3rd and 2. Make it 3rd and 16.
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't I think of that? But
anyway, 4th and 16, I should say.
They do need to like force some more negative plays on those gotta have it plays, and like we said, 6 of 7 and 4 of those were touchdowns. Like if you just got those stops, like that's 28 points. That's the difference of the game. And like they did get the one stop they did get, like did result in points for them, like in that second matchup. And that was like a big swing, but it's like, can we get a few more of those? Cause like, okay, yeah, we got one big swing, but they got 4 of them or 5 of them really. And like, that was really, that's enough to swing a game. Obviously it's like, that's a lot of points right there. Dad, what was your next one?
So this, in some ways, is connected to what I want them to do is who's on the field in obvious passing downs on defense. So this is going to be kind of a mystery box. It also depends on who's going to be available. Like, for example, who's going to be the slot corner? Yeah, there are a few permutations. Personally, I'd rather have Hobbs in the slot covering Amon-Ra St. Brown than Bullard, for example.
Fair.
If it's a passing play.
Reasonable.
But I don't even know if Hobbs is even going to play this week. So if Hobbs doesn't play, then the corner rotation is kind of set.
Or
you got Valentine and Nixon.
Or if he does play, like, is he 100%? Like, we don't know.
Right. And if he doesn't play, you've got Bullard in the slot with Nixon and Valentine outside all game.
Okay, question. Would you rather have 80% Hobbs on Amon-Ra St. Brown or 100% Javon Bullard on Amon-Ra St. Brown? I feel like I don't feel great about either of those.
He needs some safety help here.
And honestly, like, he's given us some trouble over the years. Like, he was it last year in that first matchup, he had 7 catches on 7 targets for 56 yards, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it led them. They just didn't throw very much because that was that monsoon game, if you remember. And then in the second game, I think he had a little bit less, but it just does feel like those inbreakers were way too easy for the Lions last year. And hopefully, like you mentioned, like whoever is playing the slot is a little bit more ready for those this year.
Yeah, and maybe our linebackers will be ready to help cover up on some of those inbreakers.
Got to get depth in coverage. That's a big thing.
I think Cooper will be contributing more this year, especially than he did. Did he even play in that first game?
I don't know if he might have been out. Yeah.
So I'm looking for a better coverage of that, and we just have a lot of PTSD about receivers catching balls in the middle field and then breaking tackles and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little bit interested in seeing what Bullard looks like in year 2 also. Like, I feel like last year, I feel like he gets kind of a bad rap. Like, he was solid last year. It wasn't great. I wouldn't even necessarily say he was like good, but he was solid, and he was having to learn 2 positions.
I think that's the thing. He didn't really start doing the corner stuff till a little bit later. He was like safety at first, and then they started training him at corner.
And then Evan Williams went out, and he got a little moved around as well.
And then went back and forth.
Yeah. And so I think maybe, and like, unfortunately, he had to do that again this offseason when McKinney missed time. So you could argue it's like, well, has anything really changed there where he's still having to work at 2 positions? But I do think he got to focus more on slot corner, at least, for a good chunk of the offseason. And I'm curious to see how he looks. Like, he was a guy I was really high on coming out of the draft. And, you know, I think he could have a nice second year here.
Yeah, I was very excited about getting him. I didn't think we were going to be able to get both him and Cooper in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the 2 players I most wanted in the second round of that draft. And we got them both, so I was very excited. I think his run defense has been ahead of his coverage.
Definitely.
So far. And so I think that's why people have been a little bit down on him, is because his coverage hasn't been so great. So hopefully he'll get a little bit, more comfortable in that position if he has to play it more.
Yeah.
But I'm also, in addition to like who's going to be the slot corner and how they're going to perform, I'm also interested in what they do with the rest of the defense when the slot corner comes in. Are they going to take a linebacker off or a tackle? Like, is McDuffie going to come off, or is it going to be like Wooden? And if it's like a real passing, must pass situation, what I'm hoping for is actually they only leave one defensive tackle and they move like LVN inside. So they have like 3 edge rushers.
Yeah.
With Gary and Parsons on the edges and Van Ness moving inside next to Wyatt.
Yeah, if Parsons is able to play, I would love to see some of those 3 edge looks with like either LVN coming inside or Micah just standing up over the center. That's also possible.
He has some fun clips on tape from that.
And Wyatt, like I mentioned, has struggled like in run defense, but he's been a good pass rusher in the league so far. So like there is still that on those like third downs, those obvious passing downs. Like he can still contribute there, and he has been good there.
Yeah, so I hope we get a lot of those opportunities.
Yeah,
because I think if we get a lot of those opportunities, that's a good
first.
thing. So, what did you have next?
Okay, my next thing is the quick passing game, and I'm not even just looking at this for like this game specifically. I'm looking at it really for the whole season. Because last year, I feel like we all talk about the passing game felt really disjointed, and I think a big reason for that was the short and quick passing game was just really struggled. So in 2024. Jordan Love ranked 24th in EPA per dropback on throws under 2.5 seconds. In 2023, he was 6th. So, like, it was way better in 2023. And in 2023, I think we all agree the passing offense felt more fluid. So can we get back to fixing that quick passing game and get this offense just working smoother? And that's something I'm looking at, like I said, season long. I also think it is important in this game specifically because the Lions have been so good against the run on early downs. Last year, they were 6th in rushing success rate allowed on first and second down per RBSDM. Now, they do have a new DC in Kelvin Shepherd, so there are some changes there. But he was with the Lions last year, so there is some continuity. But I would just like to see the quick passing game work better this year than it did last year and look more like 2023 than 2024.
Yeah, I suspect, or at least hope, that one of the reasons why is because Love's footwork took a hit last year after
And they
the
couldn't go under
injury.
center as much. It had to,
Yeah,
a lot of it had to be in shotgun. Like there are reasons, but I would just like to see it look better and look smoother.
yeah, me too. And and
I was
and,
gonna say
and
hot
maybe,
take.
but maybe the Lions' run defense won't be as good in the beginning of the year with two defensive tackles from last year
Yeah, I do think it's going to be more
being
weight
out for this game.
on their rookie Tylik Williams, like I said. But yeah, that's definitely. But they do still have DJ Reader also, who's a really good run defender. Like they have other run defenders as well. Like on,
Yeah, but
I
we're
would
gonna
say
just run all
Onzarike.
over them anyway.
I hope so. But I would say Onzarike and McNeil, like McNeil is a good two-way player. But like Onzarike is more of a pass rusher, I would say. So like
Mhm.
he's gonna, I think, like his absence is gonna be felt more on those passing downs, I think.
Yeah, so that should be, well. We'll see what happens with the. The Packers seem to have a plan this offseason to
Bigger.
build up to get bigger on the
Hmm.
offensive line, to get more push for more run up the middle. We'll see if that has been successful, and I think we'll see it
Well, I
pretty
have
quickly
that as some
if
like
it has pays dividends right away or not.
yeah, and I actually had that as a like we have some like quick questions, like some rapid fire stuff I wanted to hit you with. You that was your last stat, right? You finished all your stats you
I
wanted to
had
talk about.
my 3 points already.
Okay, well, I did have a bit of rapid fire questions I had for you, and one of them was about the offensive line. What are your thoughts on the matchup for new kind of interior with Aaron Banks at left guard and Elton moving to center against this front of the Lions? Like I think that's going to be something I'm keeping a close eye on, as well as whether or not we see a left tackle rotation. Rasheed Walker is listed as the starter, but I do wonder if we see some Morgan rotating in, like because they've done that before. They did that with Walker and Nyman before, so I could see that happening. I don't know. What do you think about the
Yeah.
whether or not we'll see a left tackle rotation, and what do you think about the new left guard center combo against the Lions front?
Yeah, Walker's not only listed as the starting left tackle, he listed himself as the starting left
Oh,
tackle
did
as
he? I
well.
missed that. What he say?
That was the first announcement of it. It was like interviewed in the locker room. He said, that he's going to be the starter at left tackle.
That's fun. Good for
That was
him.
the first leak that I heard about it. Was there are a few people who caught it and posted it after that, but I think that was like from his mouth first before it got leaked out from some other venue through like the official depth chart or anything. But I'm very interested in see what the run game. We should have a big improvement, I think, in the interior of the offensive line compared to last year. We basically replaced Myers with Banks
Yeah,
and
we'll see
moving
though. I
Elton as it.
Banks makes me a
But
little nervous because I
but I
mean
have seen.
the one preseason rep we saw from Banks was him just or not the one, but one of the few we saw was him just absolutely whiffing a guy in pass protection and letting a free runner right up the middle at Jordan Love. Like I I'm a little nervous about Banks and pass pro specifically.
Uh, I have seen reference to a fair number of plays. Maybe I don't know if these were. I forget if they were joint practices or other Packer specific practices of Banks and Walker or Banks and Morgan getting a lot of push on some run plays. The two together. I don't know if I remember hearing so much about like Banks and Elton together, but Banks working with the tackle has apparently worked pretty well on a number of plays um, in training camp and the preseason and joint practices. Though we didn't see much of the preseason.
Yeah, I just it makes me a little nervous, but I am excited to see Elton at center. And I am, what, do you think we're going to see a left tackle rotation? That was the other thing.
I actually I don't expect to. They've done it before. They've done it a couple different times. They did it with, Walker and Nyman, and then they did it at guard with Morgan and Ryan. They did it with Ryan and Runyon. Despite all that, I'm not really expecting it.
Okay. Okay.
We'll see what happens. Maybe what we're going to end up with is like Morgan's going to come in for Ryan in the end. Though I think, frankly, Morgan looked better at tackle than he did at guard.
Yeah, I agree. And the next rapid fire question I had for you was if Micah Parsons plays, how much do you think he's going to play? For reference, on average last year, he played about 82% of snaps. And how do you think he is going to be deployed?
So I'm setting my hopes at just a little bit under 50%. I don't think they're going to want to push him more than that.
I don't think they
Um,
should either push him more than
yeah,
that.
And so you're right. You want to have him for the whole season. And so he might be coming in just as a pass rush
which I
specialist,
think
just on passing
I'd be
downs.
totally fine with in like the first, in his first like game with the team after, having this back issue, missing some of camp, like with the Cowboys, not able to practice, like ramp him back up, take it slow, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. We want to have him around to rec shop through the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And then
I
in
mean,
terms of
it's
how
what
he's
we want.
deployed,
I'm not wrong, am I? It is what we want.
that is what we want. And in terms of how he's deployed, I would love to see them mix it up a little bit. Not just have him rush from the edge, have him, get in the A gap, have him try and, beat the center there who is a new center. Just move him around and cause problems for the Lions offense. Like, don't just let them know where exactly he's going to be coming from. Like, make them make those pre-snap reads.
Yeah, I would love to see him mugging up in the A gap. Maybe have him and Cooper both hanging out there in the A gaps.
There are a lot of fun, different things you can do, which I'm excited to see. But yeah, those are the rapid fire questions I had for you. Did you have anything else about this game that you wanted to touch on before we get to our bottom line and score predictions?
No, I think we talked about most of the things on offense and defense that we were considering for plays. That's the offensive defensive sides anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Although I am realizing now, we did forget to mention two pieces of news, and those are two contracts for the Packers. Both Matt Orzech, the Packers long snapper, and Danny Whelan, the Packers punter / holder, were extended since we last spoke, both through the 2027 season. So now both of them and Brandon McManus, all three of the specialists, are extended through the 2027 season together. Dad, any thoughts on that? I felt like we kind of assumed they might do something like this, right?
Yeah, I think that they really wanted to solidify the whole operation because it went really well the second half of last year.
It went
So
fine. It went fine, I would say. I still think
compared to what
Orzech's still a little shaky for me.
Let's just say the operation in terms of kick conversion. How's that?
Yeah, although they did miss that big one.
They did miss the one in the playoffs. I know that was it hadn't bitten them for a while before that one.
Yeah,
so,
but
I feel like
definitely smoother than it was in 2023. That is for sure.
Or the first half of 2024.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So all we have to do is figure out what side of the field to run down, and we're golden on kick coverage.
Perfect. But anyway, so yeah, that was the news. But Dad, let's move on to the bottom line. The Packers win if blank.
If they can stop the run enough to force Detroit to pass.
Yeah, fair. And I have the Packers win if we can pass the ball successfully. I think that we're not just going to be able to be one-dimensional run the ball in this game. We're going to have to be able to pass the ball as well. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. In terms of score prediction, first score prediction of the year, what do you got?
Green Bay wins 24-20.
Okay, I got Green Bay 27-24, which means, unfortunately, we're starting 0-1 since we both have the Packers.
Yeah, this is like LaFleur's first opening at home.
Yeah.
For the whole time he's been at Green Bay. And the Packers have won their home opener a lot, actually. It just hasn't been the first week of the season.
It is weird how, it is his first in all these years. That's kind of odd. That's, very strange. But anyway, hopefully we're both right, though. And the Packers come away with a W, start the season 1-0, started off right. But anyway, this has been our preview for the Packers-Lions Week 1 game. Check out, the feed, whether that's, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Leave a review, like I said. Tell a friend, like I said. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer for updates on more episodes. We'll be doing 2 a week for the rest of the season, so keep that dial tuned here. But thank you again for listening, and until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.